A man gets prison time for throwing fish and carrots inside a Department of Motor Vehicles. A Georgia healthcare worker faces felony charges for twerking on a disabled person's head. And a newly discovered asteroid turns out to be a Tesla. These are the weird stories for Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast recording daily weird news every day. You can get it to go if you want. A man is prosecuted for throwing fish and carrots inside a Department of Motor Vehicles. That's called the old drive-by keto. You just throw some fish and some carrots, a meat and a veggie. You throw it inside an office building of some sort. The drive-by keto. This story's out of Lincoln, Nebraska. A Lincoln man was prosecuted for throwing fish inside of a Department of Motor Vehicle office. In his defense, have you been to a Department of Motor Vehicle in the United States? It makes me want to lash out a little bit. I never had the gumption to throw fish around because fish is pretty expensive. I'm assuming this is a wealthy man that he can just throw fish around. You've seen the price of fish, right? I mean, it's not as expensive as eggs are right now. Eggs are crazy. I mean, I would do anything for a dozen eggs right now. And I mean anything. All right, we're off track a bit. Let's get into the details of the story. I have a lot of questions. First of all, was the fish frozen or was it fresh? Or what are we dealing with here? We got a guy named Joe Schrader, age 34. He was sentenced to a year for this criminal mischief, they call it. Throwing food, like an unwanted food fight is criminal mischief, basically. He also was charged for disturbing the peace. Schrader went into the Nebraska Department of Motor Vehicles on 1st Street. It was that office's first day in operation. Well, he went to the opening of this Department of Motor Vehicles. That's funny. The grand opening. Let me bring some food for our guests. Some people throw confetti and balloons during a grand opening. Not Joe Schrader. He does his own thing at a grand opening, throwing around seafood and vegetables. According to the court documents, they say Joe Schrader was, quote, very agitated while at the DMV and threw a bag of fish and carrots as he left. Now, you're probably thinking this is a crazy person, right? He throws fish and carrots. Who does that? Well, let me tell you something. If you spend enough time in the Department of Motor Vehicles, Joe Schrader, our star of the story, probably walked into that Department of Motor Vehicles in a great mood, very level-headed. But after being there for 2 hours, he just went insane, like normal people do. I'm not going to hold a grudge against Joe Schrader. He probably fought back with every molecule in his body to not lash out at an employee in some way, shape, or form, which is what you want to do. It's not really their fault, but that's just, you get put into that position when you're at the Department of Motor Vehicles. That's why I try and do everything online, because I don't know. I mean, I like to think that I'm a pretty upstanding citizen, but 3 hours at the Department of Motor Vehicles, I might chuck some turkey jerky around the office. I'm not perfect. Now, it says Joe Schrader threw fish all over the floor, the walls, and the ceiling of this brand new Department of Motor Vehicles. The building, quote, smelled heavily of fish, according to the arrest affidavit. When the police found Schrader, they say he also smelled heavily of fish. When they asked Joe Schrader what had transpired, he said the Department of Motor Vehicles refused to issue him an ID. He said, quote, I knew something fishy was going on here, so I decided to throw some fish around. All right. That's his rationale. Well, better fish and carrots than a couple of hand grenades. Can we all agree? I mean, this guy was trying to fight the power, but he didn't go complete Luigi Mangione on him, This was his way of showing his distaste for the establishment. According to the court document, total damages because of Joe Schrader's fishy outburst was $3,305.50. That's a hell of a lot of damage. How much fish did Joe Schrader have on him that day? It's a lot of fish. Or maybe it wasn't so much fish, it just was very high quality, bluefin tuna or something. Well, better that it's fish than durian. You guys ever smelled durian? Yeah, that's a disaster. A healthcare worker is in big trouble after twerking on a disabled person's head. I mean, the stories write themselves, guys. A Georgia healthcare worker faces a felony charge. That's serious. A felony charge after a viral TikTok video shows her twerking on a disabled man. This is terrible, unacceptable, horrible behavior from a nurse, a healthcare worker with a fat booty. Where is this hospital? And is it in my network? I'm asking for a friend here. No, not really. I'm asking for myself here because I don't know about you. If you've experienced the American healthcare system, my attitude is, hey, if you're going to screw me, at least give me a free lap dance first. Let me get some details of the story because maybe this wasn't consensual at all. It's a disabled person after all. I don't want to make light of that. If this was a legit molestation in a medical center, that's not okay. This medical employee's name is Lucretia, and I can't pronounce the rest of it, so I'm just going to go with Lucretia. She was charged with exploitation of a disabled person after authorities were alerted to this viral TikTok video. The footage was allegedly filmed and posted by Lucretia, shows her wearing her nurse scrubs and a stethoscope while dancing inappropriately, also known as twerking, over a seated disabled individual. The local police department was made aware of this video because it gained widespread attention on the social media. So be careful what you do on TikTok. You might think that it does not spill over into the actual physical world, but it does. And you can pay some consequences in the physical world. She will most likely lose her job as a healthcare worker. The Loganville Police Department was made aware of the video posted to social media depicting a female dancing in a provocative manner above a disabled person, according to authorities. Investigators say this isn't the first video that she's posted with a patient. They believe that she's posted another video dancing with a man seated in a bathtub. Well, I mean, this is the sad state of affairs on TikTok and Instagram and all of that. I mean, people are doing outrageous things to get followers because, in truth, it works. It works. I have a comedian friend of mine who no longer even tells jokes on stage. He just brings audience members up and has them, among other things, hump the stool. I know you think I'm crazy, but you can find video of this individual. But yeah, that's what's going on. And he's reaping the benefits of these crazy clips. And now we have a nurse that's trying to, she's probably trying to go viral so that she can quit her nursing gig. She obviously has aspirations to be maybe, I don't know, a professional dancer or to work for P. Diddy if he ever gets out of jail. Now, Lucretia responded to all of this backlash. She posted a video claiming that the patient whose head she was dancing on felt, quote, very aware and comfortable to her. Yeah, until he finds out that he just got pink eye. Well, I mean, I don't know where to go with this. I think I need more information. You got to sort of get a statement from the disabled person. I mean, I don't know. Feedback is necessary from patients. Is this a method that she's used before to bring happiness and joy to the patients and thus get them on the runway to recovery? Was this patient terminally ill? If I'm terminally ill, then, pretty much anybody that wants to twerk on my face can do so, I'd imagine, because I don't have long in this world. And if you're doing it, as a throw-in, by all means. Now, Lucretia is being held in the county jail as authorities are reviewing whether there may be other victims of the healthcare twerker. If she ever gets out and becomes a stripper, that should be her stripper name. Healthcare twerker. She could dress as a nurse. And if you guys have ever wondered why a strange behavior is covered in employee handbooks, it's because of incidents like this. You're like, wait a minute. Paragraph 8 says, don't do cocaine in the break room. Well, who would do such a thing? Oh, somebody did it.
Let's rock.
A newly discovered asteroid turns out to be a Tesla. Earlier this month, astronomers at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics reported discovering an asteroid passing by Earth about 150,000 miles away currently. Given its proximity, this would require tracking due to the risk of it eventually crashing into planet Earth. Turns out, though, this was not an asteroid after all. It was a douchebag's car. To be precise, it was Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster, which was boosted into orbit around the sun in 2018. Well, I mean, who told him he could park here? This guy. We're going to send the space police up there to tow it? I hope so. Before it crashes into Earth? I mean, would you be surprised at all if the asteroid that destroyed Earth turned out to be Elon's space trash? I'm not. This guy's responsible for tons of space junk up there. Who's going to pay for all that space junk to be cleaned up, huh? This guy? I don't think so. He's just putting more and more up there. This is ridiculous. This article says at the time that this car was flung up there, it received a great deal of notoriety because this was the first production car ever to be thrown into space, complete with a suited-up mannequin in the driver's seat named Starman. I mean, this is also childish that you would... Yeah, I'm going to just chuck a car up there and put a mannequin in the front seat. Call him Starman. This guy... Now, the car was sent up there and expected to go into elliptical orbit around the sun, going a little beyond Mars and back toward Earth, but it apparently exceeded the orbit of Mars and kept going to the asteroid belt. When the Roadster was mistaken for this asteroid, it was, as I said, about 150,000 miles from Earth, which is actually closer than the Moon's orbit, meaning that astronomers would want to monitor how close this gets to Earth. The case of a mistaken asteroid identity was resolved swiftly in a collaboration between professional and amateur astronomers, but some astronomers say it is also emblematic of a growing issue, the lack of transparency from nations and companies operating craft in deep space beyond the orbits used by most satellites. They say objects in lower Earth orbits are tracked diligently by the U.S. Space Force. Deeper space remains a very unregulated frontier. Well, I suggest you start getting it regulated, man, because there's a lot of space junk out there. Can't have all this space junk whipping around. Eventually, it's going to fall back to Earth, I assume. Actually, I don't really know, but it would seem that way. And it's of all the things to throw out there, a Tesla is so stupid. I mean, whether or not it's going to fall to Earth or not, who knows? It just may keep cruising around out there. Aliens probably find this one day and just be totally confused. How did this happen? Ketamine, guys. Ketamine.
Hey, Todd, Daddy. How you doing?
Hello, my friends and loyal listeners of the Weird AF News podcast. Thanks for spending a little time with your buddy Jonesy. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, please consider doing so. I do weird news 5 days a week. On Friday, it's only weird news from Florida. So tomorrow's episode is going to be what I call the Florida Friday episode. It's usually the most popular episode of the week. It gets the most streams, usually, because people can't seem to get enough of the degenerate behavior that goes on in the Sunshine State. And if you come across some weird Florida news and you want to send it to me, here's my email, funnyjones@gmail.com. You can also slide it into my DMs on Instagram, @funnyjones. I'll get that. So please join me tomorrow for the Florida Friday episode. If you want to support the show, go to my website, weirdafnews.com, where you can buy a coffee or join the exclusive Patreon. And you can get extra Weird AF content in there if you join. It's pretty cool. There's a nice group of fans of the show in there. And it's a lovely place to be. So consider joining the Patreon. You can also go to patreon.com/weirdafnews. Anyways, we'll see you tomorrow for the Florida Friday episode. And as always, good luck with your life, man.